Jada Simmons stood at the sleek glass door of apartment 54B, her cleaning uniform crisp and her canvas tote heavy with supplies. Outside, Fifth Avenue rush hour roared through the plate glass windows. Inside, the penthouse was an oasis of marble floors, polished chrome fixtures, and art worth more than Jada's yearly salary. She took a deep breath and pressed the buzzer. A hush fell over the grand foyer as she heard footsteps approaching. The door swung open, revealing Claudia Winthrop, the estate manager. Tall, impeccably dressed, and all business, Claudia offered Jada a curt nod. "Welcome," Claudia said in a cool tone. "I'm Mrs. Winthrop. You know your duties: clean the master suite, then the children's wing. Do not deviate from the schedule. Mr. Beaumont trusts me to keep things perfect." Jada smiled and handed over her tote. "Of course, Mrs. Winthrop. I won't disappoint." Claudia's eyes flicked over the gleaming hallway. "See that you don't. The family's reputation depends on it." With that, she turned and strode away. Jada set to work immediately. The master suite sparkled under her careful hand. She dusted sculptures and fluffed pillows, all the while mindful of every brushstroke. She knew what it meant to be judged on first impressions. Toward late afternoon, she headed to the children's wing. She pushed open the ornately carved door to find a plush nursery in soft pastel tones. A high-tech baby monitor blinked with data. Toys lined the shelves. In the far corner, a bassinet rocked gently. At that moment, a small, urgent wail pierced the stillness. Jada paused, listening. The baby's cries rose in panic. Jada crossed to the bassinet and knelt beside it. The infant's tiny fists clenched. Tears welled from wide brown eyes. Claudia, entering behind her, raised an eyebrow. "Stay out of it." That's the nurse's job. But Jada's heart clenched at the baby's cries. She placed a gentle hand on the child's back. She whispered softly. A warm, rhythmic hum she didn't mean to notice was soothing her own nerves. Miraculously, the baby's cries slowed. Hands unclenched, he blinked up at her curiously before drifting back to sleep. Claudia watched coldly, arms folded. Well, that was unnecessary. She whipped out her phone. "I'll report it." Jada retrieved her tote and backed away. "I'm just here to help, Mrs. Winthrop." Claudia's lips tightened. "Help? You overstep, Miss Simmons. Remember your place." Jada's cheeks flushed, but she bowed her head and left quietly. That evening, the front door opened wide, and in strode Alexander Beaumont, the millionaire patriarch, fresh from board meetings and paparazzi flashes. His tailored suit looked pressed, but his face was tense, tired. In one arm he carried a gourmet briefcase, in the other, a small bundle of writhing distress, his infant son. "Where is the nurse?" Alexander barked, his voice echoing off marble. "I've had 3 months of screaming fits!" "Change her, cradle him." "Why is he still crying?" Claudia bustled in. "Mr. Beaumont, Miss Reyes is on her break." "My break?" Alexander ground his teeth. "This is my son, not some side project." He paced, anguished. The baby wailed harder. Suddenly, the nursery doors opened behind them, and Jada stepped in, tote on one shoulder. Heart thumping, she moved toward Alexander. "Mr. Beaumont," she said softly, "may I try?" Alexander scoffed. "I don't need another foot soldier." The baby's cries rattled his composure. Jada caught the infant's gaze and began to hum the same soft melody she'd used earlier. She lifted the child into her arms, rocked him gently. Alexander watched, arms uncrossed, but his eyes narrowed. Moments later, the wails melted into coos. The baby curled against Jada's chest and drifted back to sleep. Alexander stared, breath caught. Claudia moved to intervene, until Sophia Reyes, the children's nurse, stepped forward from the hallway. Her cheeks were flushed. She had watched everything. "Thank you," Sophia whispered to Jada, eyes bright. "He hasn't slept like that in weeks." Claudia's lips pressed thin. Alexander's posture softened slightly as he took back his son. He didn't speak to Jada. He simply nodded, lost in wonder. Afterwards, as Jada gathered her bag, Sophia slipped a folded card into her hand. Under the harsh lights of the foyer, she whispered, "Meet me tomorrow at 9 a.m., behind the east wing. I think you might have something special to offer." Jada stepped into the elevator on shaky legs. The doors closed on her reflection, a quiet woman in a crisp uniform, carrying a hidden gift no one yet understood. The next morning, Jada clocked in at 8:30 a.m. The penthouse was still hushed, save for the hum of the HVACs and Claudia's clack heels in the corridor. Jada tried not to glance at the card in her pocket. When she arrived behind the east wing doors, an area set aside for the baby's private playroom, she found Sophia Reyes waiting. Sophia's gentle face seemed both relieved and nervous. "Thank you for coming," Sophia said quietly. She motioned inside. The playroom was bathed in soft light, a plush rug spread across the floor. On one wall, a blackboard held doodles from the baby's first scribbles. Claudia's voice crackled down the hallway. "Mem Simmons, get back to the nursery." Jada hesitated. Sophia placed a reassuring hand on her arm. "Trust me. Try it." Inside, Alexander Beaumont stood with the baby cocooned in his arms. He looked exhausted. His tailored jacket unbuttoned, tie loosened. Sophia motioned him to remain silent. Jada took a steady breath and approached. "Mr. Beaumont," she said in a calm voice. "May I?" He glanced at Sophia, then back at her. The baby fussed again. Alexander's jaw clenched, as if he wanted to refuse, but the desperation in his eyes spoke louder. He nodded. Jada reached out, gently lifted the infant, and rocked him against her shoulder. Then she whispered a quiet melody, barely louder than a lullaby hum. She swayed slightly, testing subtle variations in rhythm. Within seconds, the baby's intense fussing dulled. His eyelids fluttered and closed. Alexander released a breath he hadn't realized he'd held. He stared as Jada settled the boy into a portable cradle and adjusted the sheet. The child slept, his tiny hands resting on the soft fabric. Claudia stormed in, face flushed. "What is going on? Who gave you permission to?" "I did," Alexander interrupted, stepping between them. He looked at Jada with a mix of awe and vulnerability. "Leave her alone." Claudia's eyes flicked to Sophia and back to Alexander. She dipped her head. "Very well, Mr. Beaumont." She turned away, but not before casting a tight, lipped glare at Jada. The next hour passed in a blur. Jada returned to her cleaning duties, but her confidence soared. At lunch in the staff pantry, Mrs. Winthrop cornered her. "You're stepping very close to boundaries," Claudia warned in a low hiss. "He trusts me, not you. Keep your hands to your mop." Jada felt a familiar burn of frustration, but she nodded. "I understand." Yet when Sophia found her later, she handed over a small leather-bound diary. "Keep track of your methods," Sophia whispered. "Your gift deserves recognition, and if Mrs. Winthrop tries to bury you, we'll need proof." Over the next week, Jada worked side by side with Sophia, refining her calming technique. She learned how certain vibrations in her voice triggered the baby's own heart, rate reflexes. The nursery monitor showed marked improvements, longer sleep cycles, fewer stress spikes. Alexander noticed, even if he pretended not to. At one dinner, he lingered outside the nursery door. Jada emerged carrying dirty laundry. He approached her quietly. "You did this?" he asked, nodding at the laundry bag. Jada paused. She tucked the diary into her apron. "Sir, my son slept through the night last night. For 5 straight hours. He ran a hand through his hair. I've never had that." Jada braced herself. "I only did what felt right." Instead of the scolding she expected, Alexander's face softened. "Thank you." Then he hesitated. "Keep doing it, but keep it to yourself." Jada realized Sophia had been right. Alexander admired her, but he wasn't ready to challenge Claudia's authority. Still, she felt a spark of hope. Maybe one day her gift would matter more than the cleaning supplies in her tote. Word of Jada's skill didn't spread among the Butlers Guild or the social pages, but behind the hardwood doors of the penthouse, it became a quiet legend. Every night, the infant's monitor recorded precious hours of uninterrupted sleep. Alexander was calmer and more present at dawn breakfast. Sophia beamed with pride. Claudia, however, seethed. She watched Jada move through the halls with mild contempt, as if the very air around the housekeeper had turned golden. She began to undermine Jada's schedule in subtle but painful ways. First, she reassigned Jada's cleaning hours to prime nap times, forcing Jada to dash from scrubbing to pacifying. Then she spread a whisper campaign among the staff. "She's too friendly with the family. Not a proper cleaner." Those rumors reached Alexander's ears when a senior butler mentioned it during a staff meeting. One afternoon, Jada arrived in the nursery to find it in gentle chaos. The baby cried as a new, over-eager nanny tried to sing folk songs. Jada instinctively stepped forward, but the nanny screeched, "Stay back," and jerked the bassinet away. The infant's wailing grew louder. Claudia burst in behind them. "What's happening?" she barked. She glared at Jada. "This is your fault." Without a second thought, she pointed at a vase perched low on a side table. It had fallen and shattered. Then slowly she revealed the truth. The vase was a priceless heirloom from Alexander's late mother. Alexander was summoned. He stormed in, face dark. "How could this happen? Who's responsible?" Claudia swept her arm toward Jada. "Mem Simmons was here. She must have knocked it." Jada shook her head vigorously. "No, I was at the east window. The nanny bumped into it." Alexander's frustration cut her off. "You're always in the wrong place at the wrong time, Miss Simmons." "I don't know why I put up with." His words stung. But worse was the hush that fell over the staff. The shards glinted accusingly on the rug. Jada's cheeks burned as Claudia trailed from the room with a triumphant smirk. That evening, Jada labored in silence. She scrubbed floors until her wrists ached. She polished mirrors until her voice was hoarse from humming lullabies. Exhaustion tugged at her bones, but she refused to collapse under unfair blame. Late at night, Sophia found her by the service elevator. "Jada, I'm sorry they did this to you." She produced a small envelope. Inside were pay stubs showing Claudia had been padding the books, charging the Beaumonts for supplies never used. Nanny hours never worked. She had been siphoning funds for months. "But I need more," Jada said, voice trembling. "They'll never believe just pay stubs." Sophia nodded. "There's more. Follow me." She led Jada through dim back corridors to a locked glass cabinet where the estate's records were stored. Sophia produced her master key and opened it. Inside lay neat folders, each stamped with the Beaumont crest. One folder, labeled Nursery Expenses, held a stack of forged receipts and transposed pages. Another, labeled Nanny Reports, contained lies about missed feedings and false notes praising an absent nanny. As Jada snapped photos with her phone, a soft footstep echoed behind them. They spun to see Alexander's voice coach rehearsing lines for an upcoming interview. He froze, startled. Sophia whispered, "He's working here part-time. He can vouch for us." Their hearts pounded as Alexander straightened his suit. He glanced at the documents in Jada's hands and recognized his own signature, scrawled on a phantom invoice. Jada swallowed. "Sir, please believe me. Claudia's been covering her tracks by blaming me, inflating charges, hiding the baby's true progress. I've saved your son's sleep record for proof." Alexander's jaw hardened. His eyes glowed with a complex mix of anger and guilt. "I thank you for showing me." He folded his arms, then stepped back into a coaching voice. "We'll talk in the morning." That night, Jada lay awake in her small apartment, trying to quiet her thoughts. She had the proof but feared the fallout. Would Alexander stand by her? Would Claudia destroy the evidence? She stared at the ceiling and repeated one phrase like a mantra: integrity. She had done nothing wrong. She would not apologize for keeping a promise, to herself or to the sleeping child whose trust she'd earned. At dawn, Jada arrived at 7 a.m. sharp, clutching her phone. The penthouse corridors were empty except for cleaning carts and the distant hum of early staff. She found Alexander waiting in the children's wing. A rare sight. He hadn't removed his coat. His eyes were red-rimmed from sleeplessness. "Ms. Simmons," he said quietly. "Thank you for meeting me." Jada nodded, heart racing. "You wanted to see me, sir." He gestured toward a small table set with tea. "Please sit." He sank into a chair. "I reviewed everything you sent." He tapped a digital pad on the table and flicked through images of falsified receipts and nanny reports. Claudia's betrayal felt sharper under Alexander's disappointed gaze. "I'm sorry this happened to you," he said in a softer tone than Jada had ever heard from him. "I was so focused on my work that I trusted her without question." Jada picked at the seam of her uniform. "We both want what's best for your son." Alexander leaned forward. "I intend to set things right. But we need more than receipts. We need a public record." Before Jada could respond, Sophia appeared in the doorway, carrying a stack of medical logs. "I took these from the pediatrician's digital portal," she said. "See the dates when the baby's heart rate stabilized under Jada's care. Then, compared to nights Claudia ran the schedule, his stress levels spiked." Alexander accepted the papers, eyes scanning every entry. "This is solid. Thank you, Sophia." He closed the folder with a firm snap. Sophia met Jada's eyes and gave an encouraging nod. Jada realized their little alliance was ready to strike. Over the next 2 days, Alexander and Sophia organized discreet meetings with legal counsel and a few trusted staff: the butler, the driver, even the head chef. They shared the evidence in sealed envelopes. Word went out there would be a formal review of nursery operations, and anyone interfering would face consequences. Claudia caught wind of whispers. Her face went pale as she realized her web had unraveled. But she remained outwardly calm, as if she dared Alexander to strip away her power. On the eve of the Grand Charity Gala, an annual event where the Beaumonts displayed their wealth and philanthropy, Claudia prepared for her crowning moment. She rehearsed compliments for the star nanny of the year, arranged for photographers to capture the presentation, and finalized press releases. She believed no one would question her. That night, Jada left the nursery at her usual hour. As she passed Claudia's office, the door cracked open. Inside, Claudia stood over a pile of blank contracts, a pen poised. Jada poised. On the desk lay a folder stamped, URGNT residential staff changes. Their eyes locked. Claudia's lips curved into a thin smile. Good evening, Miss Simmons. Perhaps you'd like to sign these. Alarm pulsed through Jada's chest. She recognized the forms. Termination notices for herself and Sophia. Mrs. Winthrop, consider it business, Claudia said, voice silk over steel. I'll see you both gone by morning. Jada backed away, clutching her diary. Sophia appeared behind her. The two women exchanged a steady look, fear, anger, determination. Not if we go first, Sophia whispered. The clock ticked toward midnight. The gala loomed. Tomorrow, the world would gather in that penthouse's grand ballroom. Tomorrow, Claudia would claim her victory, unless Jada and her allies could take the spotlight first. The ballroom glowed under crystal chandeliers. Silver tables held silent auctions. A small orchestra tuned strings on the elevated stage. Guests in designer gowns and tuxedos sipped champagne beneath ornate frescoed ceilings. Photographers snapped in every corner. The air was thick with anticipation, especially for Claudia Winthrop, who hovered near a display of awards and framed certificates. Claudia checked her reflection in a gilded mirror. Tonight, she would unveil her chosen star nanny, a carefully vetted employee whose biography she'd prepared in meticulous detail. She rehearsed her speech, a glowing tribute to loyalty, discretion, and excellence in childcare. Alexander Beaumont appeared beside her, holding his son. Jada stood at the back of the room, her diary and evidence folder tucked beneath her arm, heart hammering. Sophia approached quietly, placing a steadying hand on her shoulder. Remember, Sophia reminded her, you only need the facts. Then let the baby do the rest. Jada nodded, chin lifted. The orchestra paused. Claudia stepped to the podium and tapped the microphone. A hush rippled through the guests. Flashbulbs popped. Ladies and gentlemen, she began, voice smooth as silk. Thank you for joining us tonight. We gather to honor those who help foster our future, our children. It is my privilege to present the Beaumont Star Nanny Award. Suddenly, Jada walked onto the raised stage, folder in hand. The murmurs grew into startled gasps. Claudia's eyes narrowed. Alexander stood, brow furrowed. Jada raised her voice so the microphones relayed every word. Before we present tonight's award, I have evidence of a deeper problem here at the estate. She unfolded her folder and displayed the falsified receipts, forged reports, and medical logs. These documents show months of deception by our estate manager. Claudia spluttered. Guests shifted uncomfortably. Alexander looked torn between rage and remorse. Jada held up her phone to project a photo of the broken vase, a tiny piece in a larger puzzle. On one occasion, I was blamed for an accident I didn't cause. Yet real caregivers were overlooked. I did this because I care, not because I wanted credit. She turned to Alexander, who stood by the reception desk, his son sleeping peacefully in his arms. Sir, Your family's integrity matters more than perfect optics. Then Jada stepped closer to Alexander and took the infant. The guests watched in suspended silence as she cradled him, murmuring her quiet lullaby. Slowly, the baby's eyes fluttered open, then relaxed. He yawned and burrowed into Jada's shoulder. The tension melted. Claudia's composure cracked. Alexander cleared his throat. "Claudia Winthrop," he said with controlled anger, "you're no longer welcome here. You're fired." Claudia's face drained of color. She backed away, ruined by her own schemes. Staff members exchanged relieved smiles. Alexander turned to Jada. "Thank you for everything you've done, for my son and for this family." He gestured to Sophia. "We have a lot to fix. Starting now." In the days that followed, the Beaumont estate launched a transparent child care initiative. Sophia was promoted to Director of Family Care. Jada became head of early development training, her soothing method taught to every nanny and nurse in the program. The charity gala news was a sensation, not for designer gowns, but for a bold stand against abuse of power and for genuine compassion. Claudia's schemes were exposed in the press. She faced legal action for embezzlement. The broken heirloom was restored. Its story became a symbol of broken trust healed by honesty. Jada looked out over her new team of caregivers, all eager to learn her approach. She breathed deeply and smiled. From a lowly housekeeper to a respected pioneer, she had changed a family, and, in time, a system. As she tucked the last sleepy infant into his crib one afternoon, she whispered, "You're safe." The baby yawned and closed his eyes. Thanks for listening Jada's journey from undervalued housekeeper to empowered innovator. This story reminds us that integrity, diligence, and kindness can topple even the strongest walls of injustice. What part of Jada's story inspired you most? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Give us a thumbs up if you believe in standing up for what's right. And don't forget to subscribe for more uplifting tales. Your support helps keep these stories alive. Thank you.